Hi everyone. This is just a short tutorial about printing on fabric. I had such an amazing response to my last journal, the Spring Meadow one, where I did pockets of which were printed fabric. So I'll show you. So this picture was printed off. It's cotton that I've printed a pattern onto and then backed onto some hessian. So here we are, very quick explanatory, I hope, tutorial on how I do it. There are four main items. So cotton cloth, this is what I use for my covers because I'm a bit of a cheapskate and didn't want to buy anything particular different, and wax paper. This is the only stuff I can find in the UK, so I'm assuming everywhere else has their own particular things. So, and this is a piece I've cut out. I find it so much easier to cut pieces rather than try and use it off the roll, not being particularly dexterous. Cotton fabric. I've ironed it, well, tried to get most of the creases out of it. The fabric I buy comes folded rather than rolls, and it's I find it easier just to try and get all the creases out of it. And I've cut this piece so it fits. In the UK we have A4, which is 8 1/4 by 11 3/4, I think. So I've cut it so I can get 2 pages off one piece of fabric. So I've cut it slightly larger all the way around, which I will explain why in a minute. It's a question of ironing the waxed shiny side onto the fabric. So my ironing mat, fabric, wax paper over the top. I have left the wax paper deliberately a bit bigger. A dry hot iron. It does have to be dry. I tend to start in the middle and try and work my way around. Now I've got a few bobbles on this at the moment, but hopefully it should iron. There we go. You need to make sure your edges are well pressed down, because otherwise it can catch as it's going through the printer. There we go. And then I need to leave that to cool for a moment before I can attempt to cut it. So back in the mo. Right, this has cooled down, and hopefully, as you can see, there are some bubbles on it. Now I've used this as printing. What you can do is flip it back over if it looks a bit uneven and just run the iron over the top. Just be aware you will end up with a waxy residue, or I do. But that could be because I'm just messy. Okay, what I do after that, and the reason for cutting it larger, I just trace around my A4, which is my regular printer size. So those of you in the States, it will be 8 1/2, I think, by 11. Oops. So I know that size will feed through my printer. And then, because I've done 2, I just find it easier to do 2, and then I've got a spare So I have 2 templates for cutting out. What I use is a rotary cutter. I find these so much easier to use for cutting fabric. I'm not very good with scissors, I will say. So this is where you need a bit of accuracy. So I've got one spare which is marked out and I can cut out later. What you're aiming for, or what I aim for, is a clean edge with no frays. What I found was with my printer, it catches. And because it catches on the frays on these bits, it tends to jam, or I've had it where it's folded over. So I have a piece of A4 cloth. Now I've got a bit of a fray. Will it focus? A bit of a fray going on. So on that one piece, there are a couple of ways around it. You either trim them off, or if you've got another really good edge, just use the good edge to go into your printer. And that's a piece of paper ready, or piece of fabric, ready to go into your printer. Now for me, when I put it in my printer, the side that you need to put it in to the side that it will print on. So for me, in my printer, I need to put it with the wax paper up. So as it feeds through, mine's just an inkjet printer, it folds back on itself and prints on this side. Never tried it in a laser printer. I've heard that it can't be done, but you never know. You never know. The other thing to say is, before you attempt it on fabric, print it out on a piece of paper. Does it look, is it what you're after? For me, yep, I want the images of these. These are going to be big pockets in my next journal. So I've tried it, I like it, and then I'm going to go and print it. So we'll go over to the printer. Right, so I've got my page set up on the printer. I'm using Photoshop for this one. I've got my 4 images. File, for me, it's print. Now what I do is I change my paper settings because you're printing, because this is going to be thicker than your normal copy paper. I change mine to matte photo paper. It's a little slow as it goes through. The print quality is very good because it will absorb, the fabric will absorb the ink as it goes onto your cotton. It needs to be, I think, for me personally, it works better with these settings because it lays down a lot more ink, so the colours I found become a lot more vibrant. I've tried it on a normal paper setting and it was a bit wishy-washy. So I hit print and then hopefully it all comes out great. Right, so this is what I've just taken out the printer. Now, as you can see, my paper guides need a clean, but I actually don't mind that because this is, it all adds to the aging effect on it. In fact, I quite like that. A point to remember is because I'm printing on cream fabric rather than white, the colours have come out darker because of the cream background. If you want an exact replication of what you printed on white paper, it might be an idea to find white fabric for it. The other thing to say is, so you peel off the back of the wax paper Now this can be used again. I tend to use it only twice, but you can use it again. It's still got plenty of wax on the back of it. And it seems silly not to, because that is now your template. Instead of having to measure and draw around your A4 sheet, as long as you're careful, that then becomes your next template for the next, if you want to do it again. So there are my pockets, or some pockets for my next journal. I am actually, this is my new obsession. I am really, really pleased with this. Anyway, I hope you found it useful, and I will speak to you all later. Take care.